we're going to have a speech, one speech with two speakers. And to be clear, it's not one speaker interviewing the other. That's been done. This concept is two speakers. 30 years after Rodney King asked the question, Lazare and Ty want to know, can't we all just get along? Please help me welcome Toastmaster, Lazare Lekadou, and ATM, Ty Patten, with their speech entitled Sympathy. Gentlemen.
Thank you.
Well, good morning, fellow Toastmasters.
Good morning.
Members at the head table. Those who are still at the head table. Lazare approached me a while back, and we get along fairly well. And we've been out, we've done a few things together, and we realize that right now, in our society, things are pretty bad when it comes to relationships. It turns out where it turns out that technology can be your worst enemy. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And you know, they tell us in speech classes that there are 3 times when you want to be real careful. Number 1, technology, children, and pets, because they're always going to deceive you. So we appreciate your patience.
Is there an stand around?
No.
Thank you. Right. Thank you.
I'll vote for 3.
Houston, we have Lifton. So why can't we all just get along?
Oh, yeah.
How many remember Rodney King and the whole mess that came from police officers who were, to say the very least, overzealous and did something that was horrendous to another human being? Well, it's up to each one of us. We've heard all throughout this morning. We started with a prayer this morning, talking about what's good for our children. What's the legacy that we're going to leave for our children? Because it's up to us to bring them up, to be more filled with grace, to be more tolerant, to be more forgiving, as we want everyone to be with us. And so this morning, the 2 of us want to have a conversation about that very thing.
Thank you, Ty. And thank you so much, every Toastmaster over here for coming this morning. And it's a pleasure to have you. And Ty, I just want to ask you just one question as we are just talking things about life. I realize that lately you've been involved in politics. And I don't follow too much that. So I just want to find out what's really going on in there. What's happening?
Well, thank you for that question. It's a very deep question because politics seems to come into everything. And it's interesting because we all, many of us, say, you know, I'm not interested in politics. And yet, if you live with anyone, if you live within the hearing voice of anyone, you're involved in politics. I was at a store the other day, and there was this family that was walking through Home Depot, believe it or not, and the father was kind of trailing behind, and he made the comment to the son. He said, you know, if your mom wasn't here, you wouldn't be getting away with that. Isn't that politics? Yeah. So we teach our children at the age of 3, 4, 5 years old politics. So politics is in everything, whether we want to admit it or not, but we always like to be the one who becomes victorious in politics. And right now, we've got a situation with politics that is very tenuous, to say the least. And it's incumbent upon all of us to be more forgiving. How many of you have ever heard of Psychology Today, quality publication? And I want to point out something here. It says, why do we like people who are similar to us? And it comes right down to the real small print down here. It says, maybe we just find it more fun to hang out with someone who shares our interests. How many of us like sharing how many of us like someone that we share an interest? Maybe we like yoga. Maybe it's bicycling. Maybe it's smoking a cigar, having a fine brandy. Whatever it may be, we like being with individuals. It's not necessarily just because we happen to be white, or we happen to be black, or we happen to be Hispanic, or Christian, Muslim. We like being around people where we're not always butting heads. I can tell you, there are individuals that it just drains me to be able to have a conversation with them, because I know I'm going to have to always be on my alert. Am I going to say something that is going to be taken out of context? And so consequently, I like being around someone who is similar to what I am. How many people know who this man is?
I recognize
I
him.
bet you most of you have heard his name. David Duke.
Oh, good.
Yeah, David Duke. Now, he is a white supremacist. Yeah, he was a grand wizard for the Knights of the KKK. How many have heard of KKK? Klan. Yeah. Not exactly the most upstanding group that you want to belong to, or to which you wouldn't belong. Thank you. How about this man?
Louis
How many of
Farrakhan.
you have seen this man before? Okay. I can guarantee you that most every one of you have heard his name. Louis Farrakhan? Yeah. Well, interesting. And by the way, I didn't write these bios. These I got off the internet. Louis Farrakhan is a black supremacist. So when we talk about racism, it is real. There are racists in our society. Fortunately, it's a very small minority. And to prove that fact, how many of us in this room are racist? Any show of hands? Be bold. Now, are we biased? Yes, we are. Because just like I feel real comfortable being around Christians, my Christian brother here, we go out, we hang out, we have a beer or two, we put together speeches, we feel comfortable together because we have some commonality. Although you would never know it if you were going to judge us on our skin color. No. Liberal comedian Bill Maher. And I point out he's liberal. He's as far left as I am right. But yet we can agree with this statement. It is not hate speech just because we disagree with it. We simply have a difference of opinion. For the last 4 presidents, President Trump, President Obama, and President Bush. Before him, President Clinton. It's interesting because I disagree with some of the policies and some of the practices of all of those presidents, and yet, the only time I was called a racist was when I disagreed with President Obama's practices. Why is that? I disagreed with all 4 of them, and yet it was only when I disagreed with his that I was called a racist. What are your thoughts about that?
Ty, you cover a lot of stuff. I did not know that you'll be going all the way there. But, to talk a little bit about the question that you asked in the beginning, why we like to be around people that we know. And it's funny because I remember I took a trip to Barcelona. So when I was there, we had to meet people who travel by themselves, solo. We met and then start talking. But everybody had to introduce themselves, so everybody was in their own corner. And then I said, okay, I'm from New Jersey, coming from New Jersey, Nigeria, or Guatemala. And there's another person that comes from Boston. You see, New Jersey to Boston, it was close. So just when he heard New Jersey and I heard Boston, we became just friends. But if we had met in New Jersey, I'll come Patten. So everybody's looking for affinities. Now to come back to racism or culture. I really don't like to talk about racism because for me, it's far too rich. So race, I don't touch it because it's just historical fact. You white, I'm black, there's nothing you can do about that. Even if you want to be black, you cannot. I'm black. Stay there. I like to talk more about culture. Because culture is just a philosophy of life. Now, somebody can be seen as racist or not when you put the race and the culture together. That's the only way to find out somebody's racist or not. You see, racist, it's real, but nobody is born racist. We learn to be racist or not. Before, I'm a black man in America, and sometimes we are so impetuous to just take everything that the media is throwing on us and react on it. I decided not to do that. Rather, sit back and then analyze if really things that have been shown to me it's racist or it's just my country. Look at those questions. First one, why black kids are not graduating from high school? Is that racist or is it just my own culture? Question to ask, why black kids are shooting each other in a rate significantly higher than white? Is that racist? You'll see. Why 13% of the population is responsible for 50% of the murder in this country? Is that race or is that culture? Why that really touched me in my core? Why single mothers rate in the black community jumps from 20 to 70% in the same amount of time the civil rights movement has made such a tremendous stride. Now, if America is a racist country, tell me why this is happening. And if it's not, why are we in this state now? You see, not everything that we see is racist, but a lot has to do with our culture. So for me, I believe it's good to start fixing first what I can fix in my community. And then I have a lot of ammo to go and fight what is really racist. Face it, it's real that we came from long place and we have a long way to go. To just answer a little bit, I didn't want you to ask me that, but you asked, so I'm giving my answer. So, racism in America, yes, it exists, but is America a racist country? I would say no, and that's my final answer.
All right. One of the things too that I'd like to point out is that when we have individuals that say that this country is racist, keep in mind in 1958, only 4% of the nation that was surveyed by Gallup polls said that they approved of interracial marriages. In 2021, 96%, I take that back, 94% approve of interracial marriages. Now, how can it be that we go from 4% to 94% if we're such a racist country? There is race, there are racists that live among us, but the country is not, and there's biases. And so, one of the things that we want to bring to your attention.
Yes, I realize that a lot of times we don't talk about really racism, and it's to ask and really open this kind of platform and really learn about other people, what is their background. So to do that, as you saw even in the beginning, we talked about empathy. Empathy is really a way to stop and think about other people walk in their shoes. That's the reason why my friend and I, we're gonna be exchanging our shoes so that we can walk in each other's shoes and see what it is. And that's it. This is our talk. Thank you.